There's a version of you that exists somewhere in the future, a version who made different choices, who didn't turn away when things got hard, who leaned into the discomfort instead of avoiding it. That version of you is living a completely different life right now. Better relationships, deeper confidence, real success that doesn't feel hollow. The gap between who you are today and who you could become isn't filled with more information. It's not about reading another book or watching another video. The gap is filled with one thing: discomfort, and the willingness to walk straight into it. Most people spend their entire lives running from the very thing that would transform them. Today, that changes. Welcome to your growth leap. Chapter 1. The growth leap. Why real change requires discomfort. Think about the last time you really changed. Not a surface-level shift like trying a new morning routine for 3 days. Real change. The kind that made you a fundamentally different person. If you look closely at that moment, you'll notice something. It probably didn't feel good when it was happening. Real growth never announces itself with fireworks and applause. It arrives disguised as anxiety, as uncertainty, as that uncomfortable tightness in your chest when you're about to do something that matters. We've been taught to interpret these feelings as warning signs, red lights telling us to stop. But what if we've had it backwards this entire time? Your brain is an ancient survival machine. It was designed to keep you alive in a world where unfamiliar situations often meant danger. A rustling bush could be a predator. A new food could be poisonous. Staying with the familiar kept our ancestors breathing. But we're not dodging predators anymore. We're dodging conversations, opportunities, the chance to become more than we currently are. And our brain still treats these moments like life or death threats. This is why comfort feels so seductive. Your nervous system interprets familiarity as safety, even when that familiarity is making you miserable. Think about it. People stay in jobs they hate for decades. They remain in relationships that drain them. They live in the same mental loops, having the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, year after year. Not because they lack options, but because the discomfort of change feels more dangerous than the pain of staying the same. Here's the truth that changes everything. Discomfort isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's proof you're doing something right. When you feel that resistance, that voice telling you to stay small and safe, you've found the edge of your current identity. And the edge is exactly where transformation lives. Imagine a seed buried in dark soil. To become a tree, it must break open. The shell that once protected it now becomes a prison. Growth requires destruction. The seed must die for the tree to live. You are no different. The version of you that got you here cannot take you there. Something must break. Something must be left behind. Most people negotiate with their growth. They want transformation without discomfort, success without risk, confidence without vulnerability. It's like wanting to build muscle without lifting weights. The resistance isn't the obstacle to growth. The resistance is the mechanism of growth. When you try to avoid discomfort, you're not protecting yourself. You're preventing yourself. Consider someone learning to swim. The water feels foreign. Breathing feels wrong. Every instinct screams to return to solid ground. But there's a moment, a split second, where they stop fighting, where they lean into the discomfort, and suddenly they're floating. The same water that felt like an enemy becomes supportive. The discomfort doesn't disappear, but the relationship with it transforms completely. This is your invitation, not to seek out suffering for its own sake, but to recognize that every meaningful chapter of your life will require you to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. The job that challenges you, the relationship that asks you to be vulnerable, the creative project that exposes your work to judgment. These aren't meant to feel easy. They're meant to forge you into someone new. You can spend the rest of your life in the familiar. Many people do. It's a valid choice. But years from now, when you look back, you won't regret the things that scared you and didn't work out. You'll regret the chances you didn't take because the discomfort felt too intense. You'll wonder about the version of yourself that chose growth over comfort. And you'll realize that person was always possible. They were just waiting on the other side of the fear. The growth leap isn't about becoming fearless. It's about recognizing that your discomfort is a compass pointing toward your expansion. Every single time you feel that resistance, you're standing at a doorway. Most people turn around, but not you. Not anymore. Because now you understand what that feeling really means. It means you're about to become more than you've ever been. And that's exactly where you need to go. Found this powerful? Hit that subscribe button and drop a like so we can continue exploring what it takes to truly transform. Share your biggest takeaway in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Chapter 2. The 1% Momentum Rule. How tiny daily actions transform your life. There's a lie we've all been sold. The idea that transformation happens in dramatic moments. That one day you'll wake up motivated enough, inspired enough, ready enough to completely overhaul your life. We wait for that perfect surge of energy, that magical Monday, that new year, that rock-bottom moment that finally forces change. But here's what actually creates lasting transformation. It's so small, you'll be tempted to dismiss it. 1%. That's it. 1% better than yesterday. It sounds almost insulting, doesn't it? Like it couldn't possibly matter. You want to lose 30 pounds, and someone tells you to improve by 1% today. You want to build a business, and the advice is to take one tiny step forward. It feels insufficient, insignificant. But mathematics doesn't care about your feelings, and the math here is absolutely extraordinary. If you improve by just 1% every single day for a year, you don't end up 1% better. You end up 37 times better. Not 37%, 37 times. That's the power of compound growth. The same principle that builds wealth in a bank account builds transformation in your life. But only if you make the deposits. Daily, consistently, without drama. Think about water dripping on stone. A single drop does nothing. You could watch it fall and see no change whatsoever. But a million drops falling in the same spot carve through solid rock. The drop doesn't need to be bigger. It doesn't need to fall harder. It just needs to keep falling. That's momentum. And momentum is the invisible force that separates people who talk about change from people who become it. Most people approach their goals like sprinters approaching a marathon. They explode out of the gate with maximum effort, every ounce of willpower thrown at the problem. 3 days later, they're exhausted, burned out, back to old patterns. They mistake intensity for commitment, but intensity fades. Momentum builds, and momentum is created through actions so small they seem almost ridiculous. Want to become a writer? You don't need to write a novel today. Write one sentence. Just one. Tomorrow, write another. It sounds too simple to work, but 6 months from now, you'll have written over 100,000 words. Want to get fit? You don't need a 2-hour workout. Do 5 push-ups. Just 5. Make it so easy you can't say no. Because the goal isn't the push-ups. The goal is becoming the kind of person who shows up every single day, no matter what. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They set a goal to read for an hour daily. Day 1 goes perfectly. Day 2, life happens. They only have 20 minutes. So they read nothing, because 20 minutes isn't the full hour. They broke the streak, might as well wait until Monday to start fresh. Do you see the trap? The all-or-nothing thinking that murders momentum before it can build?
The 1% rule destroys this trap completely, because 1% of anything is still progress. You can always find 1%. Tired? Do less, but do something. Busy? Shorten it, but don't skip it. Unmotivated? Lower the bar so far that motivation isn't required. The momentum doesn't care how you feel. It only cares that you showed up. Here's what happens when you commit to this. The first week feels pointless. You're doing so little it barely registers, but you're building something invisible. Trust. Trust with yourself. You're proving that you're someone who keeps promises, even tiny ones, especially tiny ones. The second week, it gets slightly easier, not because the action changed, but because your identity is beginning to shift. By week 4, you're not someone trying to build a habit. You're someone who does this thing. It's just what you do now. And then the magic happens. The momentum starts working for you instead of against you. Missing a day feels wrong, like something's off. Your brain has rewired itself. The new behavior isn't something you force anymore. It's something you'd have to force yourself not to do. That's when 1% becomes 10%, then 50%. Then you look back 6 months later and don't recognize the person you used to be. The people around you will ask what happened. What program did you follow? What secret did you discover? And the answer will feel almost disappointing. You just showed up. Every day with 1% more than yesterday. No fireworks, no perfect conditions, just the quiet, relentless accumulation of tiny actions that built something extraordinary. Stop waiting for the moment when you're ready to change everything. That moment doesn't exist. Start with something so small it feels laughable. Then do it again tomorrow and the day after that. Let momentum become your unfair advantage. Because while everyone else is waiting for motivation, you'll be building the life they're still dreaming about. Feeling the momentum already? Smash that like button, subscribe for more game-changing insights, and tell us in the comments, what's your 1% starting today?
Chapter 3. Breaking the Invisible Cage, Reprogram the Habits That Hold You Back. You're trapped in a cage you can't see. Right now, as you listen to these words, invisible bars surround you. They dictate when you wake up, what you eat, how you react when someone criticizes you, the thoughts you think when you look in the mirror. These bars weren't built by anyone else. You constructed them yourself, one repeated action at a time. And the most dangerous part? You've forgotten they're even there. Habits are neural pathways carved deep into your brain through repetition. Every time you perform an action, your brain lays down a thin trail. Do it again, the trail gets wider. Again, and it becomes a path. Keep going, and eventually it's a highway. Your brain loves highways. They're efficient, automatic. They require zero conscious thought, which is beautiful when the habit serves you, and devastating when it doesn't. Think about your morning. You probably don't remember getting out of bed or brushing your teeth. Your body executed a complex series of actions while your conscious mind was somewhere else entirely. That's the power of automaticity. Now think about the habits you wish you didn't have. Reaching for your phone the moment you feel bored. Snapping at people when you're stressed. Buying things you don't need when emotions run high. Eating when you're not hungry. These aren't conscious choices. They're automated responses your brain triggers before you even realize what's happening. Here's the pattern. There's always a cue, a trigger that starts the sequence. Stress, boredom, a notification sound, walking past the kitchen. Your brain detects the cue and immediately activates the habit. Then comes the routine, the behavior itself. Scrolling, snacking, yelling, shopping. Finally, there's the reward, the hit of dopamine, the temporary relief, the brief escape from discomfort. Your brain records this loop: cue, routine, reward. Do it enough times and it becomes completely unconscious. The invisible cage isn't made of your habits themselves. It's made of the belief that these patterns define who you are, that you're just someone who lacks discipline, who can't stick to things, who always self-sabotages right when success gets close. But you're not your habits, you're the awareness beneath them. And awareness is where all change begins. Breaking a habit isn't about willpower. Willpower is a limited resource that runs out by noon. Breaking a habit is about understanding the architecture of the loop and deliberately redesigning it. You can't delete a neural pathway, but you can build a new one right next to it, and if you travel the new path enough times, it becomes the default route. Start with observation, not judgment, not shame, pure curiosity. When does the habit trigger? What are you feeling right before? What need is the habit attempting to meet? Because every habit, even the destructive ones, exists because it's solving a problem. Smoking relieves stress. Scrolling prevents boredom. Overeating numbs difficult emotions. The behavior isn't random, it's functional. Misguided maybe, but functional. Once you identify the real need, you can find a better solution. If the habit relieves stress, what else could do that? Deep breathing, a walk, calling a friend. The new behavior has to satisfy the same itch. Otherwise, your brain will drag you back to the old pattern every time. This is why most people fail at breaking habits. They try to eliminate the routine without replacing the reward. It's like removing someone's painkiller without treating the pain. Here's the technique that changes everything. Make the bad habit harder and the good habit easier. Want to stop scrolling at night? Charge your phone in another room. Want to stop eating junk food? Don't bring it into the house. These sound too simple to matter. But remember, habits thrive on convenience. When the bad habit requires effort and the good habit is effortless, your brain will naturally choose the path of least resistance. And here's the truth nobody talks about. You'll slip. You'll fail. You'll find yourself halfway through the old pattern before you even realized it started. This doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. The cage doesn't disappear overnight. But every time you catch yourself, every time you choose differently, you weaken the old pathway and strengthen the new one. Progress isn't perfection. Progress is direction. The most powerful moment in breaking any habit is the split second between the cue and the routine. That tiny gap where you can pause, breathe, choose. Most people never even notice this space exists, but it's there, and it's expanding every time you practice awareness. In that space lives your freedom. The cage starts to dissolve, not because the bars were never real, but because you finally remembered you're the one holding the key. Ready to break free? Hit subscribe, drop a like, and share in the comments which invisible habit you're ready to reprogram. Let's build this transformation together.
Chapter 4. The Confidence Bank. Build self-respect through kept promises. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's not a personality trait some people have and others don't. Confidence is a bank account, and every single day you're either making deposits or withdrawals. Most people don't realize they're bankrupt until they need confidence most. A job interview, a difficult conversation, a moment that requires them to believe in themselves. They reach into the account and find nothing there, because they've been making withdrawals for years without ever making a deposit. Here's how the system works. Every time you make a promise to yourself and keep it, you make a deposit. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you make a withdrawal. It doesn't matter how small the promise is. Your subconscious is keeping score, and it's brutally honest about the balance. You told yourself you'd wake up at 6. The alarm goes off, you hit snooze. Withdrawal. You committed to 30 minutes of work on that project. You scroll instead. Withdrawal. You promised you'd stop eating sugar. There's cake in the kitchen. You eat it. Withdrawal. These moments feel insignificant in isolation. Just one snooze button, just one distraction, just one slice. But your brain is recording every single one, and it's building a case about who you really are.
The voice in your head that says you can't trust yourself? That voice isn't lying. It's reporting the data. You've shown yourself through repeated evidence that your word doesn't mean anything, not to others, to yourself. And if you can't trust yourself to follow through on simple promises, how could you possibly trust yourself with anything important? This is why people with enormous potential stay stuck. They set big goals, make ambitious plans, truly believe this time will be different. But when the moment comes to execute, some deeper part of them whispers the truth. You won't follow through. You never do. And that whisper becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, not because they lack ability, but because their confidence account is overdrawn. Now here's the beautiful part. You can rebuild this account starting today, right now, with the smallest promise imaginable. The secret isn't making massive commitments. It's making tiny promises you absolutely know you can keep, then keeping them, without exception, without negotiation. Promise yourself you'll drink 1 glass of water before coffee. That's it. Do it every single day for a week. Your brain notices. It doesn't matter that it's just water. What matters is you said you would and you did. That's a deposit. Promise yourself you'll make your bed. Not clean the whole room, just make the bed. Do it. Another deposit. Promise yourself you'll write 1 sentence. Walk for 5 minutes. Put your phone away during dinner. These aren't life-changing actions. They're trust-building transactions. Here's what most people get wrong. They think confidence comes from accomplishing big things, from external validation, from other people believing in them. But real confidence, the kind that doesn't evaporate under pressure, comes from an unshakable trust in your own word. It comes from looking yourself in the mirror and knowing, without question, that when you commit to something, it happens. Start stacking these tiny kept promises, one on top of another, day after day. Watch what happens. The voice of doubt gets quieter, not because circumstances changed, but because the evidence changed. You're becoming someone who does what they say they'll do, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, especially when no one's watching. This is how self-respect is built, not through achievements others can see, through integrity others can't. The version of you that exists in private, when there's no audience, no accountability, no external pressure, that version is the real you. And if that version keeps their promises, confidence becomes inevitable. 6 months from now, you'll face something difficult, a challenge that requires courage. And in that moment, you won't feel the usual panic because your confidence account will be full. You'll reach in and find an endless reserve of self-trust. Not because you suddenly became a different person, but because you've spent months proving to yourself that your word is sacred, that you're someone who follows through, always. The people around you will notice something's different. They won't be able to name it exactly, but they'll feel it. The way you carry yourself, the certainty in your voice, the calm presence you bring to uncertainty. They'll call it confidence, and they'll wonder how you found it. But you'll know the truth. You didn't find it, you built it, one kept promise at a time. This one hit different, didn't it? Show some love with a like, subscribe to keep building with us, and drop a comment about the first promise you're making to yourself today.
Chapter 5. Your Growth Ecosystem. Design environments that help you evolve. You think you're in control, that your choices are purely the result of your willpower, your discipline, your character. But there's an invisible force shaping every decision you make. It's not inside you, it's around you. Your environment is quietly programming your behavior every single moment. And most people never realize they're living in a system designed to keep them exactly where they are. Look around right now. What's within arm's reach? Your phone, probably. Snacks, maybe. A remote control. Comfortable furniture. Everything easy. Everything convenient. Now think about the things you say you want to do. Exercise. Read. Work on that project. Create something meaningful. Where are the tools for those things? In another room? In a drawer? Buried under clutter? Your environment is voting against your goals every single day. An environment always wins. Here's why. Every choice requires energy. Decision fatigue is real. By the end of the day, your willpower is depleted. You've made thousands of micro decisions and your brain is exhausted. In that state, you don't choose what's best. You choose what's easiest. And what's easiest is whatever your environment makes most accessible. This is why you can start the day with perfect intentions and end it wondering what happened. Your environment happened. The smartest people don't rely on discipline. They design systems that make good choices automatic. They remove friction from desired behaviors and add friction to undesired ones. It's not about being stronger. It's about being strategic. Because you're not fighting your environment, you're engineering it. Want to read more? Put a book on your pillow, not on a shelf, on your pillow. So the moment you go to bed, you have to move the book to lie down. That tiny interaction is often enough to trigger reading instead of scrolling. Want to exercise in the morning? Sleep in your workout clothes. Lay out your shoes by the bed. Make the next right action completely obvious and effortless. Your groggy morning brain won't have to think. It'll just follow the path you designed. Now look at the people in your environment. This part is harder to hear. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Not because they directly control you, but because humans are wired for social conformity. We mirror the energy, habits, and standards of our peer group without even realizing it. If everyone around you is comfortable with mediocrity, mediocrity will feel normal. If everyone around you is constantly growing, growth becomes the baseline. This doesn't mean you abandon everyone who isn't perfect, but it does mean you have to be intentional about influence. Who are you learning from? Who challenges you? Who celebrates your growth instead of feeling threatened by it? These relationships are part of your ecosystem, and they're either helping you evolve or keeping you stagnant. Your digital environment matters just as much. What's on your phone's home screen? Social media or tools that support your goals? What shows up in your feed? Content that educates and inspires or content that numbs and distracts? Every algorithm is designed to keep you engaged, not to help you grow. You have to actively curate what enters your mind, because your attention is your most valuable resource, and whatever you feed attention to will grow. Think about your physical space. Is it chaotic or calm? Cluttered or clear? Your external environment reflects and reinforces your internal state. A messy room creates a messy mind, not because mess is morally wrong, but because your brain is constantly processing every visual input. Clutter creates cognitive load. It drains energy you could be using for things that matter. Clean space, clean mind. It's not poetry, it's neuroscience. Start small. Pick one area of your life, your bedroom, your workspace, your morning routine. Ask yourself, is this environment designed to support who I'm becoming or who I used to be? Then make one change. Move the junk food. Delete the app. Rearrange the furniture. Add something that reminds you of your goals. One change creates momentum. Momentum creates more changes. Before long, you're living in a completely different ecosystem. Here's the transformation. 6 months in an environment designed for growth, and you'll become unrecognizable, not because you forced change through sheer will, but because your surroundings made evolution the path of least resistance. You won't have to fight yourself every day. You'll just naturally become the person your environment expects you to be. And that version of you, they're already waiting in the space you're about to create. Loved this perspective? Hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell us in the comments what's the first change you're making to your environment today.
Chapter 6. Reclaiming Your Mind. Escape the mental pressure of work culture.
Your mind isn't yours anymore. You think it is, but pay attention to what happens in the spaces between tasks. The moment you finish one thing before you start another, where does your brain go? Work. Always work. The email you need to send, the project that's behind, the meeting that didn't go well. Even when you're home, even when you're supposed to be resting, work has colonized your consciousness. This is the invisible tax of modern work culture. It's not the hours you spend working. It's the hours you spend unable to stop thinking about work. Your body might leave the office, but your mind stays trapped there, rehearsing conversations, anticipating problems, running scenarios. You're on the clock even when you're not. And nobody's paying you for those hours. You're paying. With your peace, your presence, your life. There's a term for this: cognitive load. Your brain has a limited capacity for processing information. Every open loop, every unfinished task, every commitment you're tracking consumes mental bandwidth, even if you're not actively thinking about it. It's running in the background, like apps draining your phone's battery. By the end of the day, you're exhausted. Not from what you did, from what you're carrying. The culture tells you this is normal, that stress is the price of success, that if you're not overwhelmed, you're not working hard enough. But here's what they don't tell you. The most productive people aren't the most stressed. They're the most protected. They guard their mental space like it's sacred. Because it is. Your mind is where everything begins. Your creativity, your decisions, your ability to be present with the people you love. Lose your mind to work, and you lose everything. So how do you reclaim it? First, you have to create hard boundaries. Not flexible ones, hard ones. A specific time when work ends, not when the tasks are done. They'll never be done. When the time ends, you close the laptop, you silence the notifications, you physically separate yourself from work. This feels impossible at first, like you're abandoning responsibility. But what you're actually doing is protecting your most valuable asset, your capacity to think clearly. Next, you need a shutdown ritual, something that signals to your brain that work mode is over. It could be a walk, changing clothes, a specific playlist. Doesn't matter what it is. What matters is consistency. Your brain learns patterns. If you always do the same thing when work ends, eventually that thing becomes a switch. It flips you from work mode to life mode. Without it, you're stuck in a permanent state of half working, never fully engaged, never fully resting. And here's the part that requires courage. You have to let some things drop. Not everything is urgent, not everything matters. But your brain treats every notification, every request, every deadline like it's life or death. Because that's how work culture frames it. Everything is critical, everything is immediate. But it's not. And until you start saying no, until you start letting non-essential things go, you'll remain trapped in a cycle of artificial urgency. Practice presence. When you're with your family, be with your family. When you're eating, eat. When you're resting, rest. Your mind will try to drift back to work. That's normal. It's been trained to do that. But every time you notice and bring yourself back, you're rewiring the pattern. You're teaching your brain that there are spaces where work doesn't exist. Those spaces are where you actually live. And here's the truth that will set you free. Your worth isn't determined by your productivity. You are not your output. You're a human being with intrinsic value that exists completely independent of what you accomplish. Where culture wants you to forget this. It profits from your belief that you're only valuable when you're producing. But it's a lie, and believing it costs you everything. The executives who built this system, they're not working themselves to death. They're on yachts. They're taking vacations. They're protecting their mental health while asking you to sacrifice yours. The hustle culture they sell is designed to extract maximum value from your life while they enjoy theirs. Stop buying what they're selling. Reclaiming your mind isn't selfish. It's necessary. Because a burned-out mind can't create, can't solve problems, can't be present, can't love fully. You're not opting out of success by protecting your mental space. You're building the foundation for sustainable success, the kind that doesn't require you to destroy yourself in the process. Start today, right now. Decide what time work ends. Create your shutdown ritual. Practice presence. Let something unimportant drop. Your mind belongs to you, and it's time you took it back. Needed to hear this? Smash that like button, hit subscribe for more real talk, and let us know in the comments how you're reclaiming your peace today.
Chapter 7. The Discipline Dividend. How to stay strong when motivation dies. Motivation is a liar. It shows up when you don't need it, when everything feels easy and exciting, when you're inspired and energized and ready to conquer the world. Then, exactly when you need it most, motivation disappears, leaves you standing there, staring at the work, feeling absolutely nothing. And this is where most people quit. They think the absence of motivation means something's wrong, that they've lost their passion, that maybe this goal wasn't meant for them. But motivation was never supposed to carry you. Discipline is. Motivation is an emotion, and emotions are weather. They come and go. You can't control them. You can't summon them on demand. Relying on motivation to achieve your goals is like relying on sunshine to get to work. Some days it's there. Most days it's not. But you still have to show up. Discipline is what gets you there, regardless of the weather. Here's the shift that changes everything. Stop asking yourself if you feel like doing it. That question is irrelevant. The only question that matters is, did you commit to doing it? If yes, you do it. Not because you feel inspired, because you decided it matters. This sounds harsh, almost robotic, but it's actually liberation. Because now your actions aren't dependent on the chaos of your emotions. They're anchored to something stable, your word. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wait until you're motivated to brush your teeth. You don't check if it aligns with your passion. You don't journal about whether you feel inspired to maintain dental hygiene. You just do it because it's non-negotiable. Discipline is turning your goals into something equally non-negotiable, not through force, through decision. The secret is removing the choice. Every time you ask yourself whether you should do something, you create an opportunity to negotiate. And when you're tired, stressed, or unmotivated, you'll negotiate yourself out of it every time. But if it's already decided, there's nothing to debate. You committed, so you execute. The mental energy you used to waste on internal arguments is now available for the actual work. Here's where most people break. They build discipline for a while, they're consistent, they're showing up, then life happens. They get sick or busy, or something throws off their routine. They miss a day,
then another, and suddenly discipline feels impossible to restart because they think they failed. But missing one day isn't failure. Quitting is. Discipline isn't perfection. It's resilience. It's getting back up faster each time you fall. Build in forgiveness. The goal isn't a perfect streak. The goal is a pattern. If you work out 5 days a week instead of 7, you're still disciplined. If you write 4 days instead of every day, you're still a writer. Discipline isn't about punishing yourself. It's about proving to yourself that you're reliable, even when things get hard, especially when things get hard. And here's the dividend. The payoff for discipline isn't just the goal you achieve, it's who you become in the process. Every time you act, despite not feeling like it, you're building a new identity. You're becoming someone who doesn't need perfect conditions, someone who doesn't quit when things get boring, someone who finishes what they start. That identity is worth more than any single achievement. Motivation gets you started. Discipline gets you results. Motivation is the spark. Discipline is the fuel. And you don't need a spark to keep a fire burning. You just need to keep adding wood. Day after day, whether you feel like it or not, the fire keeps burning, not because it's excited, because it's fed. So stop waiting for the feeling. Stop scrolling for inspiration. Stop looking for the perfect moment. You already know what you need to do. The only question is whether you're going to do it. And that answer isn't found in your emotions. It's found in your commitment. Choose discipline, not because it's easy, because it's what works. Inspired to commit? Hit that like, subscribe for more truth, and share in the comments what discipline means to you today.
Chapter 8. Your Inner Compass. Develop self-belief without external validation. You're addicted to approval. Don't take that personally. We all are. It's wired into us. For thousands of years, being accepted by the tribe meant survival. Rejection meant death. So your brain learned to constantly scan for signs of approval. Are they smiling? Do they agree? Do they like me? This kept your ancestors alive, but it's keeping you small. Every time you check how many likes your post got, you're seeking validation. Every time you change your opinion based on someone's reaction, you're outsourcing your self-worth. Every time you hold back because you're worried what people will think, you're letting their imaginary judgment control your real life. And here's the twist. Most of the time, they're not even thinking about you. They're too busy worrying about what you think of them. Self-belief that depends on external validation isn't self-belief. It's permission. You're waiting for the world to tell you you're good enough, smart enough, talented enough, worthy enough. But the world is too busy to care. And even when it does offer approval, it's never enough. You get the promotion and immediately worry about keeping it. You get the compliment and wonder if they really meant it. External validation is an unwinnable game. The only way to stop losing is to stop playing. Here's how you build real self. Chapter 8. Your Inner Compass. Develop self-belief without external validation. You're addicted to approval. Don't take that personally. We all are. It's wired into us. For thousands of years, being accepted by the tribe meant survival. Rejection meant death. So your brain learned to constantly scan for signs of approval. Are they smiling? Do they agree? Do they like me? This kept your ancestors alive, but it's keeping you small. Every time you check how many likes your post got, you're seeking validation. Every time you change your opinion based on someone's reaction, you're outsourcing your self-worth. Every time you hold back because you're worried what people will think, you're letting their imaginary judgment control your real life. And here's the twist.
Most of the time, they're not even thinking about you. They're too busy worrying about what you think of them. Self-belief that depends on external validation isn't self-belief, it's permission. You're waiting for the world to tell you you're good enough, smart enough, talented enough, worthy enough. But the world is too busy to care, and even when it does offer approval, it's never enough. You get the promotion and immediately worry about keeping it. You get the compliment and wonder if they really meant it. External validation is an unwinnable game. The only way to stop losing is to stop playing. Here's how you build real self-belief, the kind that doesn't collapse the moment someone disagrees with you. You start listening to yourself, not to the voice that echoes what others think, to the deeper voice, the one that knows what you actually want, what you actually value, what actually matters to you. That voice has been drowned out by years of seeking approval, but it's still there, waiting for you to pay attention. This requires something uncomfortable, solitude, real solitude, not just being alone with your phone, alone with your thoughts, no distractions, no inputs, just you and the quiet. This is where you meet yourself, and at first it's awkward. Your mind will race, you'll feel restless, because you've been running from this meeting your whole life. But if you sit with it, something shifts. The noise settles, and underneath all the conditioning, all the other people's voices, you find your own. Start making decisions based on that voice, small ones at first. What do you actually want for lunch? Not what sounds impressive, not what's healthy. What do you want? Choose it. Sounds trivial, but you're practicing listening to yourself and trusting what you hear. Most people can't even do this with simple choices. They're so conditioned to perform for others that they've lost touch with their own preferences. Now here's the hard part. You're going to disappoint people. When you stop seeking their approval, when you start following your own compass, some people won't like it. They'll push back, judge you, try to pull you back into the pattern where you prioritize their comfort over your truth. Let them. Their discomfort with your growth is not your responsibility. You are not here to live a life that makes other people comfortable. This doesn't mean being cruel. You can be kind and still be yourself. You can respect others and still honor your own path. But you cannot build self-belief while constantly betraying yourself to gain approval. Every time you shrink to fit someone else's expectations, you teach yourself that your truth isn't valuable, that you're not trustworthy, that you need someone else to tell you you're okay. Real self-belief comes from alignment. When what you think, what you say, and what you do are all pointing in the same direction. Most people think one thing, say another, and do something completely different, then wonder why they feel lost. Your inner compass can't guide you if you're not willing to follow it, and you can't follow it if you're constantly checking whether everyone else approves of the direction. Build evidence for yourself, not for others. Do things that prove to you that you're capable. Keep promises to yourself. Face fears. Take risks. Not for the applause, for the internal record. Because self-belief isn't built on what others say about you. It's built on what you know about you. And you can't know who you are if you're always being who they need you to be. The moment you stop needing their approval is the moment you become free. Not because you stop caring about people, but because your worth is no longer in their hands. It's in yours, and nobody can take that from you. Unless you give it away. So stop giving it away. Take it back. Trust yourself. Believe yourself. Follow your compass. Even when the crowd is walking in the opposite direction, especially then. This one resonates? Show us with a like. Hit subscribe and drop a comment sharing one thing you're doing today without needing anyone's approval.
Chapter 9. Energy Management Mastery. Protect your focus, time, and mental health. You've been lied to about time management. You've read the articles, tried the apps,
color-coded your calendar, blocked out every hour, and you're still exhausted, still overwhelmed, still running on empty by mid-afternoon. Because time isn't the problem, energy is. You can have all the time in the world, but if you don't have the energy to use it, it's worthless. Energy isn't infinite. You wake up with a tank. Every decision drains it. Every interaction pulls from it. Every notification chips away at it. By the time you get to the things that actually matter, the tank is empty. So you push through on fumes, fueled by caffeine and stress, wondering why you can't perform at the level you know you're capable of. It's not a discipline problem, it's an energy management problem. There are 4 types of energy: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Most people focus only on physical energy: sleep, exercise, nutrition. Those matter, but they're not enough. You can be physically rested and mentally drained. You can be well-fed and emotionally depleted. Each type of energy requires its own maintenance. Neglect one, and the whole system suffers. Start with mental energy. Your brain uses more energy than any other organ. Deep focus burns through mental reserves fast. This is why you can't focus for 8 hours straight. It's biologically impossible. Your brain needs recovery, real recovery. Not switching from one screen to another. Not scrolling while eating lunch. Actual rest. Walks without podcasts. Sitting without input. Staring at nothing. This isn't wasted time. This is restoration. Emotional energy is even more fragile. Every difficult conversation drains it. Every conflict. Every suppressed feeling. Most people are emotionally exhausted not from big trauma, but from constant small stressors they never process. The coworker who annoys them. The partner who doesn't listen. The frustration they swallow every day. It accumulates, and eventually, there's nothing left. You snap at small things because you're running on emotional fumes. Here's the key. You have to become ruthless about what gets access to your energy. Not everything deserves it. Not every email requires a response. Not every invitation needs a yes. Not every argument needs your participation. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your priorities, you're saying no to something that does, and you're paying for it with energy you can't afford to waste. Learn to say no without guilt, without over-explaining. A simple no is a complete sentence. People will push back. They'll guilt you, tell you you're being selfish. Let them. Protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's survival. You can't pour from an empty cup, and if you keep giving energy to things that don't matter, you'll have nothing left for what does. Design your day around your energy peaks. Most people have high mental energy in the morning. That's when you do deep work, creative work, strategic thinking. Not emails, not meetings, not admin tasks. Save those for when your energy dips. Use your best hours for your best work. This alone will transform your productivity, not because you have more time, but because you're using your energy intentionally. Build energy rituals, small actions that recharge specific types of energy. A 5-minute breathing exercise restores mental clarity. A 10-minute walk resets emotional state. 20 minutes with a book you love refills spiritual energy. These aren't luxuries, they're maintenance. Your car needs oil changes. Your phone needs charging. You need energy rituals. Non-negotiable, scheduled into your day like any other important meeting. Now look at the people in your life. Some people energize you. After spending time with them, you feel more alive, more inspired, more yourself. Others drain you. 20 minutes with them feels like 2 hours. You leave exhausted, depleted. This isn't judgment, it's data. And you need to make decisions based on that data. Spend more time with energy givers, less time with energy takers. It's that simple. The same applies to content. What are you consuming? News designed to trigger anxiety? Social media engineered to create envy? Podcasts that leave you feeling inadequate? Every input affects your energy. If it doesn't educate, inspire, or genuinely entertain you, it's draining you. Cut it. Be as protective of what enters your mind as you are of what enters your body. Both are fuel, both matter. Here's what most people miss. Rest isn't laziness. Recovery isn't weakness. Your body is designed to operate in cycles. Sprint, recover. Sprint, recover. But you're trying to sprint constantly, then wondering why you're burnt out. Elite athletes understand this. They train hard, then rest hard. The rest is when the growth happens, when the body rebuilds stronger. Your mind works the same way. Push without recovery, and you don't get stronger. You break down. Set boundaries around your time. Your mornings, your evenings, your weekends. These aren't flexible. They're protected. No work emails after 7. No calls during family dinner. No checking messages first thing in the morning. Your energy is most vulnerable at the edges of the day. Protect those edges and you protect everything. And sleep. This is non-negotiable. You cannot outwork bad sleep. You cannot compensate with caffeine. Sleep is when your brain processes information, consolidates memories, repairs cells, regulates emotions. Skimp on sleep and everything else suffers. Your focus, your mood, your decision-making, your health. There is no shortcut, no hack, no substitute. Sleep or pay the price. The transformation happens when you stop trying to do everything and start doing what matters with full energy. You won't accomplish more tasks, but you'll accomplish better work. You won't be busier, but you'll be more present. You won't fill every hour, but you'll fill the right hours with the right energy. And that's when life stops feeling like survival and starts feeling like actually living. Protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. Not just your productivity, your peace, your relationships, your mental health. Everything flows from energy. Manage it well, and everything else gets easier. Ignore it, and nothing else matters.
Chapter 10. Becoming the Transformation. Make growth a daily identity. You've absorbed the lessons, understood the concepts, nodded along with every chapter. But here's the question that determines everything. Who will you be tomorrow morning? Not who you want to be, not who you plan to be, who you will actually be. Because transformation isn't an event. It's not a destination you arrive at and then coast. Transformation is a daily practice, a constant becoming. And the moment you stop practicing, you stop transforming. Most people treat personal growth like a project. They read the book, take the course, have the breakthrough, then assume they're fixed. They've leveled up. They're the new version now. But identity doesn't work that way. You don't become disciplined once and stay disciplined forever. You don't build confidence and never doubt yourself again. Every single day, you're either reinforcing who you're becoming or slipping back into who you were. This is the uncomfortable truth. Growth isn't a ladder you climb. It's a muscle you exercise. Stop exercising and it atrophies. You don't lose your gains immediately, but gradually, quietly, you drift back. The habits weaken. The mindset shifts. The patterns return. And one day you wake up and realize you're living like the person you used to be. Not because you failed, because you stopped practicing. So what does daily transformation look like? It's not dramatic. It's not Instagram-worthy. It's the quiet, consistent choice to honor who you're becoming over who you've been. It's feeling the pull toward comfort and choosing growth instead. It's noticing the old pattern activate and interrupting it before it takes over. It's showing up on the days when showing up is the last thing you want to do. Think of identity like a vote. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you are. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're voting for trustworthiness. Every time you choose the hard right over the easy wrong, you're voting for integrity. Every time you face discomfort instead of avoiding it, you're voting for courage. You don't need to win every vote,
but the majority shapes who you become. This is why tiny actions matter so much, not because they produce massive results immediately, but because they're casting votes. You're not just working out, you're voting to be someone who values their health. You're not just reading, you're voting to be someone who prioritizes learning. You're not just meditating, you're voting to be someone who protects their peace. The outcome of the action matters, but the identity it reinforces matters more. Here's the shift that makes this sustainable. Stop trying to achieve transformation. Start practicing it. Achievement has an endpoint. Practice is infinite. You can always get better, always go deeper, always refine. This removes the pressure of perfection. You're not trying to become the finished product. You're committing to the process, and the process never ends. That's not depressing. That's liberating, because it means you can never fail. As long as you're still practicing, you're succeeding. Build daily rituals that remind you who you're becoming, not who you are, who you're becoming. A morning routine that sets the tone. An evening reflection that closes the loop. Moments throughout the day where you pause and recalibrate. These aren't productivity hacks, they're identity anchors. They keep you connected to the transformation you're practicing. Without them, it's easy to drift, to forget, to slip back into autopilot. And when you fall off, because you will, you don't punish yourself. You don't spiral into shame. You don't quit because you're not perfect. You notice, you acknowledge, you choose again. That's the practice, not flawless execution. Conscious recommitment every single day. The person who gets back up fastest wins, not the person who never falls. Here's what 6 months of daily practice creates. You won't recognize yourself, not because you've achieved some massive external goal, but because your baseline has shifted. The things that used to feel impossible now feel normal. The habits that required massive willpower now feel automatic. The identity you were reaching for has become the identity you're living from. And the best part? You're still growing, still evolving, still becoming. The people around you will ask what happened. How did you change so much? And the answer won't fit in a soundbite, because it wasn't one thing. It was 1,000 small things, 1,000 daily choices, 1,000 votes for the person you decided to become. They'll want the shortcut, the secret, the one thing that changed everything. But you'll know the truth. There is no one thing. There's only the practice, the daily, unglamorous, absolutely essential practice of becoming. So here's your final challenge. Not to finish this audiobook inspired, but to start tomorrow different. One small choice, one kept promise, one vote for who you're becoming. Then do it again the next day and the next. Not because you have to, because you've decided this is who you are now. Someone who grows, someone who transforms, someone who practices becoming the best version of themselves, daily, relentlessly, unapologetically. You've heard the lessons. Now comes the only part that matters: living them, becoming them, making transformation not something you did once, but something you are, every single day, starting now. This is just the beginning. Hit that like button, subscribe to continue this journey with us, and drop a comment sharing your first action toward becoming your transformation. We're in this together.